What if all the confusion, all the debates about Bible prophecy really just boil down to one single misunderstanding? What if the Bible isn't talking about one big catching away, but three completely different ones? Well, today we're going to dig into this. It's a great question, right? Because sometimes the end times timeline can feel like this tangled mess of verses that almost seem to contradict each other. A lot of us read about being taken and just naturally assume it's all talking about the same exact event. But what if that's where the confusion starts? So here's the idea we're exploring. The key to making sense of it all is to untangle these events. Once you see them as three separate moments for three different groups of people with three totally different purposes, well, the whole timeline just snaps into focus. It becomes surprisingly clear. So where do we even start with this? We've got to begin with the foundation. And that's a direct promise Jesus makes to his followers. And this isn't some vague hint either. It's a specific pledge of deliverance that really sets the stage for everything else. Okay, pay close attention to the wording here, because it's everything. Jesus doesn't say he'll keep believers safe through the hour of trial, or in it. He says he will keep them from it. See the difference? This isn't a promise of preservation while the crisis is happening. It's a promise of complete removal from that entire period of time. And if we want to get to the heart of it, we've got to look at the original Greek. The phrase is tereo ek, and it literally means to be kept out of something, to be totally separated from it. The only other place this exact phrase shows up is in John 17:15, where Jesus prays his followers would be kept from the evil one. Not just protected while under his influence, but kept completely out of his ultimate reach. That parallel is just so powerful. And Jesus just doubles down on this idea of a complete removal right here. He tells his followers to pray that they'd be worthy to escape all these things, not just a few of them, all of them. And where do they go after escaping? They get to stand before the Son of Man. Now that doesn't sound like a quick meeting in the clouds and then a U-turn back to earth. It implies a heavenly destination, which lines up perfectly with his other promise. I will come again and receive you to myself, that where I am, there you may be also. Okay, so if the church is promised an escape, what we call the rapture, then what in the world do we do with that famous passage, one will be taken and the other left? Honestly, this is probably the single biggest source of confusion, and it's where so many timelines get completely tangled up. So let's untangle it. Now, the common assumption is that being taken is the good thing. You're getting rescued. But when you put Matthew's account side by side with the one in Luke's gospel, Jesus adds this crucial and frankly pretty grim detail that flips the whole meaning on its head. So when the disciples ask, hey, where are these people taken? Jesus gives them this image. And it's important to know the Greek word here for eagles is often used to mean vultures. Yeah, this is not a picture of a beautiful heavenly rescue. It's a picture of judgment. Vultures gathering over dead bodies. It actually lines up perfectly with Revelation 19, which describes birds gathering for the supper of the great God to feast on the wicked. So in this passage, being taken is a really, really bad thing. So what do we have? We have the church rescued before the tribulation, and we have the wicked removed for judgment at the end of it. But there's still one more gathering we need to account for, and this one is the final piece of the puzzle. It's specifically about the nation of Israel. And Jesus himself gives us the exact sequence in the parable of the wheat and the tares. He lays out the order of the harvest, and he couldn't be more explicit. He says, first, you gather the tares, the wicked, and you deal with them in judgment. Then, and only after that, you gather the wheat, the faithful remnant of Israel, into the safety of the barn, which represents the beginning of the millennial kingdom on earth. The order is crystal clear. Judgment first, then gathering the righteous into the kingdom. Okay, so we've looked at these three very distinct events. There's a rescue for the church, a removal for the wicked, and a gathering for Israel's remnant. Now, let's put all the pieces together into one single timeline. This is where it all clicks. And this chart just lays it out so clearly. Look at this. Gathering number 1, the rapture. Who? The church. Why? For rescue from the coming wrath. That happens before the tribulation. Gathering number 2, the removal. Who? The wicked. Why? For judgment when Christ returns. And finally, gathering number 3, the harvest. Who? Israel's faithful remnant. Why? For entrance into the kingdom. See? 3 different events, 3 different groups, and 3 different purposes. So when you put it on a timeline, it flows perfectly. First, the church is rescued in the rapture. Then, the 7-year tribulation, a period the Bible calls the time of Jacob's trouble, which is focused on Israel, unfolds on earth. After that, Christ returns in glory, and at his return,
two things happen back to back. The wicked are removed in judgment, and then the faithful remnant of Israel is gathered to enter the kingdom. It's just a logical, step-by-step sequence.
So here's the bottom line. When you stop trying to cram three very different events into one box, the biblical timeline just opens up and becomes clear. The promise made to the church is one of total escape from the hour of trial. The events that happen during and after that trial, they're for different people and for different reasons. And based on this whole framework, the church simply cannot be present for the tribulation.
But of course, this view isn't without its challenges. There are definitely other scriptures people point to that seem to argue against it. So if this timeline really is correct, what are the absolute strongest objections out there? And how do they actually hold up when we test them against the rest of Scripture? Well, that's exactly what we're going to tackle in our next explainer.